Good morning, everybody. Gonna give it a few minutes here, let everybody jump on. So, whew, it's nice out today. Wish every day was like this. We're gonna give everybody, as usual, we're gonna give everybody a few minutes to jump on. So then we'll kind of get into some things. Ooh, how's your Saturday? And nothing makes me crave a good cup of coffee like a Saturday morning. All right. Hey, what's going on, Keith? Good morning, sir. I'm sure you're enjoying this lovely weather. What's going on, VD Dub? It's nice and 70 degrees out here in the Atlanta area. It's nice and quiet. Well, till I start talking. It's gonna be a beautiful day today. I got some plans lined up for the rest of the day. Gonna go out and look at some houses and see, just kind of see how things turn out. But it's been kind of a dull week in college football, which I guess is a good thing depending on who your team is. Of course, it's off season, so it's it gets more and more challenging to come up with new and exciting content when there's not a game to review, or there's not a upcoming game to trash talk or go over injury reports. None of that stuff's really kind of relevant in the off season. So once we get into the the deepest depths of the off season, it starts getting a little bit tough to come up with some stuff. It's always a great day to be a dog. I believe that. Man, it's allergy season apparently for me. So, well, we've been on here a few minutes. Let's kind of jump into it and see where we end up at. I'm gonna wait until we get a few more viewers on before I actually get into the topic that we had talked about. Milton is on campus this weekend. Yes, he is, sir. And UGA staff does a great job. What's going on, Jermaine? He said, "Good morning, Dog Pound." I guess I'm gonna have to start calling the chat section the Dog Pound now. What do you think about that, Jermaine? Oh man. So one of the things that the UGA staff does really well is when they get these recruits in, they do a really good job of impressing them. They do a hands-on approach. Typically, if you see a UGA recruit taking official visits to UGA, it's pretty uncommon for them to go anywhere else. Even some of these guys that are crystal balled to go somewhere else, they usually end up going to UGA after they do a trip there. So I don't know what kind of magic they perform behind the scenes, but they do an outstanding job. So I'm looking forward to see Milton go ahead and commit to the Dogs. It probably won't be long before that happens. For those of you who don't know, UGA just moved up. We picked up a guy earlier in the week. UGA moved up to the number 4 spot in recruiting. Now, to me, that's really kind of impressive considering that we only have 11 recruits. The 3 teams above us, which are Clemson, Alabama, and I can't remember who the other team is, not off the top of my head anyway, but the other teams that are sitting ahead of us in the recruiting loop, they all have like 14, 15, or even 17 recruits. The only team that's got more 5-stars is Clemson. But if you look at the rating or ranking per recruit, UGA has a much higher ranking per recruit. than all the other teams out there, with the exception of Clemson. Clemson's got us beat by a point or two. So their average is really strong. By the time UGA picks up one or two more guys, you're going to continue to see them move up in that, that 1, 2, and 3 spot. It's probably going to be a little difficult to take the number 1 spot away from Clemson this year, but it's possible. It's going to be difficult, but it's possible. UGA is going to have to sign about 4 more 5-stars. Pittman has to save some scholarships for Milton Ringo, Rosame. I'm still not sure how to say that guy's name. Gilbert Birch, Evans, and Washington. I don't even know how many. Excuse me. I don't even know how many scholarships we have available. That information seems to be very difficult for me to find. If somebody has a way to look up, how many actual scholarships we have available, and that includes, transfer out and 5-year or, senior grad transfers. Oh, the Gators are miserable. Didn't they lose another guy? I'm pretty sure they lost another guy over the week, over this past week. Somebody else left the team. I keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it. But the way that they're losing players, they'll be lucky to have a freaking football team that they can they can use. Pittman needs another raise. Yeah, I hate to say this, but if we've got to do something wild to create enough incentive to keep Pittman at Georgia, unless he just doesn't want to be a head coach, because that guy has so much talent. It would not surprise me if there aren't. I bet there are other schools that are already offering him head coach positions. I just do. We've got to find a way to hang on to that guy. Not only is he an absolute rock star coach himself, he's probably the best recruiter that UGA has ever had. So without him, there would be some big shoes to fill. And given the state of affairs at some of these other schools, I would not be surprised if other schools out there, real name schools, Power 5 schools, start offering this guy jobs. Wouldn't surprise me if a team in a Power 5 conference like, I don't know, Arkansas, or maybe pretty soon, maybe even South Carolina. LSU, that's the other one. Thank you, VTW. We only have 11 men. They have 17. The recruits we will get will pass them. We should. That's what I was thinking. I see the Arkansas coaches and players was begging Pittman to stay. Yeah, I can see why. The guy is incredible. But so since we're talking about Bama has 20. Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out where they come up with them scholarships from, because I think last year they put out a boatload of scholarships. I find it hard to believe they had 20 scholarships available. That's a lot. I mean, to sign the number of people they signed, that's a lot. I know we signed a boatload in the last couple of years, so I don't even know how many we've got. But out of all those recruits, I'm just glad that Rodrigo finally got his. We need that guy as a 10th year senior. That guy's got a leg on him to read about. So if you guys see me keep reaching up like this, and it's so I can get the chat to stay up. I've got my camera set up so that half the time that thing disappears. We'll have another top 3 class. There's no doubt. I highly suspect we'll be number 2. I would love to take the number 1 position, but that's going to be difficult. All right, guys, you know the drill. Since you've been here this long, if you're liking the content or whatever, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Helps the channel, helps me out. My job is to try and give you guys some entertainment and try and give you guys something to read something to watch, keep you entertained in the meantime. This is better than all the news channels combined. ESPN, SEC Network, all that other stuff. So what you get from me is content that is absolutely unrehearsed most of the time. Half the time it's going to make you forced to go check to make sure I'm right, which I'm usually not, but it's unadulterated for sure. So whatever you get from me is the real deal. Now, whether it's accurate or not, that's debatable, but I'll point to my record whenever I look back and I point at the times that Georgia has won versus the times that I said Georgia was going to win and they didn't. I got more than a winning record. Clemson's class is unreal. Absolutely, it is unreal. They've got some talent, but unfortunately, the longer you stay at that top-notch position, the more you get watched by more people, and somebody's eventually going to find a weakness. We go north, go Raptors. The Blues won the Stanley Cup. For those of you who don't know, not a big hockey guy, but I watched part of that game, and it looked to me, you could tell in Game 7, those guys were not relaxed at all. Like, they weren't playing a normal pace game. It looked like both teams had something to prove. They were wide open the entire game. It was probably the most exciting hockey game I've ever watched. Not that I've watched a lot, but it was probably the most exciting hockey game I can ever remember watching. Years and years and years ago, right after they invented electricity, me and Keith, we used to play on his Sega a game called Mario Lemieux's Hockey. I had no idea who Mario Lemieux was. I still really don't. But that's when I started kind of paying attention to hockey. And then over the years, I've watched a few games here and there, but nothing to say I'm a fan of the sport. All right, guys. Well, let's talk about the headliner here. I can talk about recruiting every week. I can talk about the upcoming schedules, who's got the best, hardest schedule. I can talk about who's going to win the East, who's going to win the West, who's going to playoffs. Everybody covers that stuff. And it's good content. I enjoy watching it. But what I really wanted to talk about today was what it takes to be a college football fan and the different kinds of fans that we have. Am I offended by Dabo? No. Dabo can do and say whatever he wants to. The last time that Georgia played Clemson, we beat the brakes off of them. So, and that's for those people that do the, hey, what have you done lately? Well, the last time we played you, we beat you. Same thing with Oklahoma. Last time we played you, we beat you. So, to me, it doesn't offend me. I don't care what he does over there. That's his team. And one of the biggest reasons I don't care what he does is because they're a national champion. And in my opinion, you're a national champion, you can say what you want to say. I mean, you beat everybody else. And if you didn't beat everybody else, you beat the team that beat everybody else. So, I mean, that's where your bragging rights come from. That's why you get bragging rights. Man, this allergies are killing me. So, to be a college football fan, what you really need is you need a team, right? That's kind of where the whole premise starts. Now, you can be a fan of college football, and that's fine. You can watch all college football. But if you're a college football fan, the East has already won. Georgia will be in the Benz. That's a fact. You got to have a team. And see, this is where really the kind of some of the friction in college football shows up, because there's Osama bin Laden. Yeah, well, he said what he said. In college football, you get this friction because you have fans that they're fans because they're diehard fans, and then you have fans that are not diehard fans. You have fans that are fair weather fans at best, or they're and this is the one that kind of aggravates me. People that say they're a fan, but either only when the team's winning, or, well, I'm a fan because my uncle was a fan, and so I just watch the games with him. Okay, you're not a fan. You're a spectator. There's a difference. Fan is short for fanatic. Stole that from Uncle Lou. All credit to Uncle Lou on that. Fan is short for fanatic. And there's fans, and there's super fans, and then there's nerds like me. Guys who sit around and look up stats for fun. We sit around and we watch other people's content on their videos of teams we don't even care about, to see what they're saying about that team for fun. So you've got people that make entire careers out of watching teams, And you'll see these fans get so engrossed whenever they're watching a game. And it seems like that's what people really, there's people that want to watch the game, and then there's people that want to watch you either lose your mind happy or, you know, start popping Xanax and shooting Jack trying to recover. That's kind of what they want to see. If you just sit on the couch and go, that's a good game. What's on the Discovery Channel? You got the remote? Nobody wants to see fans do that. So one of the reasons I made the hype video was I didn't see anybody that put a video out like that. I really enjoyed the Seven Nation Army video they put up a while back. I thought that video was great. Watched it, and I was like, man, that's really cool. And then the next video that came out, I really wasn't impressed. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my own. Turns out there's a whole bunch of songs out there that you can't use because of copyright ID and content ID, and I've reached out to some other, you know, content creators, and they gave me some direction, especially Uncle Lou. And it's, if you post a video, you kind of have to be careful, because you can post a video with the song, and then you can't monetize it, which means, you know, it doesn't have commercials or whatever, you know, and all, you know, all the credit and everything goes to whoever made the song or whatever. Even if you remix the song and you change a whole bunch of stuff and you speed it up, slow it down, change pitch, doesn't matter. No matter how much you make that into a new creation, you know, it just goes out there. So I put that out there because I wanted my own spin on a hype video. I have a newfound respect for the guys that put together these hype videos and these video clips, the editing stuff. I don't have editing software. I don't have a studio. I don't have any of those things. Now, maybe one day, but I don't have it now. And so trying to do all this stuff on a phone is pretty complex. So that entire video, I found the music, downloaded music, mixed the music, found like 10 different video clips, which, by the way, and for those of you who don't know, you can't download anything from YouTube unless you're like YouTube Prime or whatever it is they have. Then you have to take all these different videos and you have to mix them up and cut them and chop them and then splice them all back together and then speed them up and slow them down and then fade in, fade out, add effects, and then make it match the music so that whenever Knowshon Moreno is diving into the end zone, that the beat line drops right when his fist hits the ground. It's fun, and it takes forever. At least it did for me. Maybe it's because I'm new at it, but that entire video is made on a cell phone. All that stuff is put together on a cell phone. I don't have the, I looked at some software. I think there was an OBS software or something that's just like that a lot of creators use to mix stuff. I've got to play with that stuff a lot more. And unfortunately, I'm one of the content creators that once I get an idea in my head and I want to put it out there, it is so hard for me to pump the brakes to make sure that it is what I want it to be before I turn it loose. When I made that video, it took me, like when I remade the song, I downloaded like 6 or 7 different DJ mixing apps, mixed that song 4 or 5 times. I bet you I listened to that song no less than 100 times over the past couple of days, mixing that song. I'd mix the song, put it together. I'd like all of it except one part. And unfortunately, the way that I edited the music, I couldn't go back and just change that. It wouldn't allow me to reverse it, so I was stuck with it when I saved it. So I'd have to go all the way back to the original blank, just plain format, and then play that, and then try to do the same thing I did before, and then not mess up that one part, and then finish the rest of the song without messing it up. So I ended up remaking the song, I don't know, probably a good 5, 6, 7 times. Got all that put together, put it to the video, and then started the clip, splice, move, slow down, speed up, change. I like this clip better there. No, I like this clip better there. No, I really want both of these clips there. What do I do now? And so it ended up with this kind of culmination of, I would put something together and I would hit play and I would watch how it went with the music. And then once it got, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds in, I'd pause it and I'd sit there and think about it, and I'd go, man, do I like that? And if I didn't go, I really like that, I didn't put it out there. I'd go back and change it, or I'd add something. Or there's one scene in that entire video that I duplicated something, and it's because I wanted to. I like the way it fit earlier in the video, and then it was right at the end of the video where it does the commit to the G. And you know, all of that stuff comes from different content creators. I think Hayden YDT or something, the guy makes highlight videos all the time. I used a lot of his stuff. I use stuff from ABC, CBS, NBC, ESPN. I mixed it all together, which was helpful because I didn't have to go watch entire games and pull clips out, so that did help, but it was still quite a process. I uploaded one video, and once it uploaded, I actually had it set to public, didn't mean to, had to switch it back to private, and when I watched the video, the quality was really, really low. I was pretty upset because I had just put together all these clips, and then because on the phone the screen's smaller, it looked high quality. When I uploaded it, it didn't upload high quality. So I went back to the app I was using and pressed play and checked the feed, and it wasn't. All the editing I had done in that video was done at, like, I want to say 480p, and it was just terrible. So then I had to basically start the whole project over from scrap, do everything in HD, and then put it all back together. Obviously that process went together faster because I already knew how to do all that stuff. I had everything already laid out, but man, it was just one more kick in the gut. So I got it uploaded. I think that video is getting close to 1,000 views. It's just a tribute to the University of Georgia, a tribute to the players, tribute to the fans. So, you know, I put that out there for everybody. That kind of music, rarely do you see a hype video made with something like that, so that's why I wanted to make it. To me, when you see stuff like that, that's kind of the hallmark of what a fan is. That's a hallmark of somebody who cares about doing something for the team, not just the team doing something for them. You know, when you ride around with a Georgia visor on, or a Georgia t-shirt, or you're sitting at the office and you're drinking out of your Georgia cup, or you're sitting over here and you're riding around drinking out of your Georgia this, or you got Georgia plates on your vehicle, or Georgia headrest, or whatever. That stuff's nice, but being a person that would rather, you know, I'd want to be at the games, not because of the way Georgia makes me feel. That's a big part of it. It makes me feel, I don't know, it gives me something to be proud of where I'm from. I mean, Georgia's a great place, but to me, one of the most prolific things about the state of Georgia is its football team. You can go in any gas station pretty much anywhere, and you're going to see somebody wearing Georgia stuff, or if you're wearing Georgia stuff, it's not uncommon to hear somebody say, "Go Dogs." Georgia fans tend to be pretty interactive with each other. Now, I've been all over the country, and if you're wearing Georgia stuff, no matter where you are at, you can be at a gas station in Missouri or South Dakota or Tennessee, and if you're wearing Georgia stuff and somebody else is Georgia, what's up, Artie? Mom was born in Georgia. Man, I don't know what happened, Artie. I don't know how you ended up an Auburn fan, buddy. But good morning. To me, it just kind of gives me a sense of pride when you see those guys and they look at you and you look at them and they go, "Hey, go Dogs." And it's like, you know what? Go Dogs. I've been riding down the interstate, and because you know, some of these long stretches of just blank road, you know, because I got Georgia tags on my car or my sticker on my back glass, somebody will, when they ride by, they'll look at me and they'll point at their hat or something, and they give you the thumbs up, you know. And even down here in Florida, go Dogs. That's right. You tell them, Southern Buck. To me, that's part of being a college football fan. Now, there's a whole nother category of college football fans I want to talk about, and it's the trolls. And the trolls are some of my favorite college football fans. I love when people jump in the troll section. UGA owns this state. Falcons are second. Yeah, that's right. You don't see as near as much Falcon gear as you see Dogs gear. But back to the topic. I absolutely love trolls. And the reason is because it gives me somebody that I can willingly, capably, forcibly, and with extreme prejudice humiliate in front of a whole group of people, and people cheer me on for doing it. I love it, because most of the time when you get engaged with these guys, and not all of them, but some of them, when you get engaged with these guys, they are not the smartest people. They say some of the dumbest stuff. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever looked back through the comment section on some of my other videos. If somebody makes a comment about something and it's derogatory towards the state of Georgia or me or whatever, I will absolutely, first of all, I will make sure that what I'm saying is right before I post something. Now, I have made mistakes. I'm not perfect. But if I make a mistake, I will admit it. You know, say, you know what, you're right. Good call on that, but you still suck. You know, I'll say stuff like that. I don't understand why people watch a video, jump into a comment section and say something like, you don't know anything about football, you're an idiot. Keyboard Warrior just felt like he just had to say something. He had to jump in and had to be abrasive about whatever. Okay, that's fine. But if you feel like that's going to hurt my feelings, it doesn't. By the way, I want you guys to know that somebody must have cut their grass this morning. I'm still getting people in the comment section from the Georgia Longhorns game. And he said, well, this video aged well. And my first thing I usually say is, man, you are late to the party. Wow, you're late. And so now, what they have done is, and I keep a list of all those people, because I'll go back to that channel and I'll look at every single guy that talks, or every single person that talks all this smack. And guess what I'm going to do this year? I'm going to follow every Texas Longhorns game, and every time they lose, because they're going to lose at least 2 or 3 in the season, they always do, I'm going to razz the fire out of them. And I hope they end up, I mean, well, we'll see what happens when they play LSU. I think LSU is probably a team that they're going to walk in thinking that it's like Georgia, and then they're going to find out pretty late in the game that LSU is a completely different kind of football team, and they're going to have more than have their hands full. So, to me, to be a college football fan, you need some kind of college gear. You need to have some kind of knowledge about what goes on with your team. You should know what conference you're in. You should know what the other Power 4, 5 conferences are. 4 out of the 5, I should say. You should know when your first game of the season is, who you're playing, or when your next game is, whether it's a bye week or it's next Saturday at 3 o'clock. You should know that. One of the things that bothers me, if the Texas game was a playoff game, we would have beat them. Yeah, but at the same time, I agree. Excuse me. I agree with what you're saying, VT Dub. But to me, I don't buy into that as far as, I think you're right, but I don't think it's an excuse for the way we played. We should have went out there and played that game just like it was a national championship game. We should play every game like it's a national championship game. You should blow everybody out. You should get 30, 40 points on the boards. Sarah, you ain't no troll. Sit down. Once we get 30 points on somebody, then start swapping in the second stringers, third stringers, get those guys some experience, because we're gonna need them later in the season. I just think that's the way it's gonna be. If and but was candy and nuts, we'd have a Christmas every day. I'm gonna steal that, Sarah. You're absolutely gonna steal that. The way that I look at it is, there's so many different ways to be a fan. Yeah, they play like it's a national championship game. The way that fans are, you will see a big influx of fans the closer we get to football season, and that's fine. But I've just seen a lot here lately of fans that are fair weather fans, so to speak, that are they're only fans of Georgia when Georgia's winning. Um, people that were running Georgia down when Georgia was 8-5, Kirby Smart's first year, and one of the biggest things that really chaps my hide is when you get a recruit that transfers away from Georgia, or they had Georgia in the top 2 or 3 and he went to go play somewhere else, and then you get a whole bunch of this, well, we didn't want him anyway. Why? That guy's a loser. Blah, blah, blah. Listen, guys, you can't do that stuff, man. You cannot do that stuff. The reason you can't do that stuff is because you have to understand that that guy is not the only guy we're trying to recruit. Now, if you feel that way, that's fine. But don't put that stuff out on blast on social media, because there's other recruits that we're trying to get that can see that. And that kind of makes a bad image. We want all of these recruits to come to Georgia and feel welcome and should be welcome. And if this particular recruit, I don't care if he's a 4-star, I don't care if he's a 5-star, if he doesn't feel comfortable, he's probably not going to stay. And these recruits talk to one another. It ain't like in the good old days where you had to find somebody's phone number through the phone book to get a hold of whomever. That was funny that he said that if Texas game was a playoff game. Yeah, it is what it is, man. I mean, you're going to hear that. There's a lot of players that didn't play, and you can just tell Georgia didn't have any drive in that game. So, the mentality in the locker room wasn't right. But what do I know, Artie? We're losing to Florida. These players, it takes them about 4 minutes at the most to find out information and how to contact another recruit, another player. They jump on ESPN, they see who's in the top 300, they look at the crystal ball predictions, they see who they're looking to go visit, and they can hit them on Twitter in a heartbeat. It's not hard. They can direct message them on Facebook. It's not hard. I mean, social media these days really allows these kids to communicate in a way that they didn't communicate before. So if you've got players that are going to University of Georgia for an official visit, and you have another recruit who is interested possibly in University of Georgia, and he sees that Milton is going to Georgia this weekend or whatever, and he's like, before I take my official visit there, let me reach out to this guy and let's see what he thought while he was there, because I may not even want to go down there if it's bad. And so, they get they reach out to one of these guys, get a hold of him, and bring him in. And, bring in that information, review it, talk about it, and make their decision off that. And if a guy transfers out of there, a lot of these recruits, they're going to reach out to that guy that's transferring and say, hey, man, why did you transfer? I mean, I get why people are going, but why did you leave? And he's going to tell them most of the time. Say, hey, man, it just wasn't a good fit. I'm a 4-star running back. They got 5-star running backs. I'm not going to be able to play. Whatever the reason is. Whenever these new recruits see fans talking smack about people that are transferring, it's not a good image. And to me, I understand that you may be emotionally involved, but you're really serving yourself and you're not representing your team well. Trust me, there's things I want to say all the time about other teams. There's things I want to say all the time about recruits that I don't say because it's not appropriate. It's not right. It's not accurate most of the time. It's just emotionally based response. And you have to put that stuff in a box and you have to go, I can't use that. Yeah, I mean, in my real life, everyday life, the language that I use is far more abrasive than what I use on here. And it's because I understand that there's people that get on here, their kids get on here. And most people just not interested in that kind of language. I've had, jobs throughout my career where I dealt with people of a more criminalistic nature. And when you're in those type of environments, the language gets to be pretty abrasive pretty quick. It's a very rough environment. So when I get in the general public or I get on here, I make sure I tone it down for everybody, because I want to make sure that, number one, I don't want to upset anybody with my language. I don't want my kids watching somebody that's F this, F that all the time. And number two, I think it'd be a bad image for the school. Now, are there times that I drop some language when I get pretty heated? Yes. But for the most part, I want to make sure I represent my team well. I want to make sure I represent the school well. I want to make sure that any image that I put out there that anybody else sees about Georgia fans, that it's at least somewhat intelligent and positive. Now, as far as the trash talking videos go, I'm going to trash talk. And there ain't nothing anybody can do to stop me. I'll get on there and trash talk if nobody watches these videos. I don't care. It's part of what I want to do for the channel. I watch the videos. I study to make sure that I kind of know what I'm talking about. I am no ESPN analyst. I don't have a team of folks that put together all my stuff in a stack of papers, and hand it to me for me to read and read off the teleprompter. That doesn't exist for me. So when I sit down and I'm doing my fan work, I try to do a lot of that stuff to put information out there for fans that are not as in-depth as I am, so that whenever they have a conversation with other Georgia fans, that they have a talking point, that they have information that they can share that maybe the other guys didn't know. I like being able to make our not to brag, not trying to brag, but the extremely small portion of the Georgia fan base that I'm able to touch. If I can give them a little bit of information to share with other fans of college football or of this team, then that's what I like to do. I do have a good bit of subs from other fans. I even have some Texas fans that have subbed to me recently, which kind of surprised me. I got Alabama fans. I've got Clemson fans. I've got Ann Auburn fan, which is why I pick him out by name, Artie. To me, it's all right. So let me back up. Here's one of the things that aggravate the crap out of me about other conferences. Other conferences rag on the SEC all the time. But if you go back and you look at the number of championships that we've had since, I don't know, 1995, it's undeniably the strongest conference. If you go back and you look at how many players go in the NFL, it's undeniably the best conference for recruits for draft picks for the NFL. If you go back and you look at what schools recruits are picking them, UGA doesn't roll up to Ohio and go, "Hey, get in the truck, we're going down to the big house." It doesn't work that way. To me, when I see a player pick Georgia and they're not from here, to me that's one of the biggest compliments that our team can get. Now, I think every 5-star, every 4-star that is in the state of Georgia should play at Georgia. That's just me. Thank you, Dwayne. I really appreciate that, man. When I think every Georgia recruit, every player that's 4 or 5-star should come to the University of Georgia. To me, that should be, the guy's a 4-star player, he gets an offer. The guy's a 5-star player from the state of Georgia, he gets an offer. You get an offer, you get an offer, and you get an offer. To me, that's the way it should be. But it's not that way. There's players that we don't need that guy for that position, or this guy, if he's a 5-star player at this position, he might not get to play as much as he could if he went somewhere else. Like Justin Fields. Justin Fields wasn't going to win a starting job back from Jake Fromm, so he transferred to Ohio State. Am I mad about that? Not at all. I think that guy should do what's best for him. Now, when I see a player from Mississippi, from Missouri, from Montana, wherever they come from, we should all represent our teams respectfully, be able to joke around without getting ugly about it. It makes football fun. Man, I missed one on the chat here. WVU fans still talking about the 2011 Orange Bowl, 70-33. West Virginia hasn't been winning night outside. Yeah. Well, you got me sidetracked. I'll get back to it. Whenever you have a player who can go play for all these other teams, he's not from Georgia. Most of the time wasn't a Georgia fan growing up. And he comes to Georgia and he wants to play at Georgia. He can see that there is potential for him to advance his career through the state of Georgia. That's one of the biggest compliments I think our team can get. When you have parents that they get on board with their kids. We went to Athens. They were awesome. They treated us great. Nice campus, nice people, blah, 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 blah. Awesome. That, to me, is one of the biggest pats on the back you can get in college football. Okay, so especially get the QBs from Georgia. Just ask Clemson. 2 Georgia boys leading them to natties, which is true. Georgia has traditionally produced great quarterbacks. They've got 2 quarterbacks that's given them national titles. We have a quarterback that took us right to the brink of a national title. So to deny the talent at Georgia as far as quarterback goes is a little difficult to say. Oh, this chair's terrible. It's killing my back. All right, let's go for a walk. I gotta stand up a little bit. Whew. So I think I might have a solution here. There we go. To me, to be a college football fan, there's a couple of ingredients. One of them is you got to know your team, right? You got to pick a team, and how you pick your team is to me kind of important. But you know what? If you want to be a Dogs fan because you got friends that are Dogs fans, right on. If you want to be a Dogs fan because your dad was a fan or because you're from there, that's fine. If you're one of these bandwagon fans, I kind of just shake my head and I'm like, why are you even involved? Don't get me wrong. We definitely want as many fans as we can get. But to me, if you're a fair weather fan, if you don't watch the team, if you don't keep up with it, don't chime in when they lose or don't chime in when something goes wrong. It's kind of like, well, you don't really know what's going on anyway. You just don't. Now, do I have a problem with other fans of other teams razzing Georgia when we lose or do something stupid? No, that's what you should do. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you, quick, fast, and in a hurry, that your team is full of a bunch of criminals, and at 2007, you had more murderers on your team than they had on death row in the state of Florida. But the only way that I know that is I have to be a fan. So anyway, the other thing that I don't understand is, you know why you bleed crimson, Dwayne? I know why you bleed. I know why you bleed crimson. Because you got cut deeper than we did. That's a deep cut. Oh man. The other thing I don't understand is whenever these conferences, whenever they see one of their rivals in a typical season, one of their rivals playing a bowl game, in which for the most part bowl games are kind of meaningless. They mean something, but at the end of the day, I'm going to watch the game. I've been to several bowl games, but it's not like sitting in a national championship game. It's not like sitting in a playoff game. It's just not. So I grew up with Bear Bryant and stayed faithful to the Tide when the well ran dry, and I continue to support Bama and the well will run dry again. That's absolutely true. It comes in waves. It just does. But whenever Florida was playing against Michigan here in Atlanta, Yeah, Florida Gators 2018 was pretty strong. Whenever I saw Florida was playing Michigan, I wanted to go to that game. It was here in town. And I watched it on TV. Guess who I pulled for? I didn't pull for Michigan. I pulled for Florida. And other conferences are like, that's just ridiculous. You should never pull for one of your rivals, blah, blah, blah. Listen, guy, you don't understand. See, this is why your conference has problems. This is why your conference, Florida walks out there on a national stage and they blow Michigan out. I mean, blow them out. And then the next year, with pretty much all the same players, Georgia played them earlier that year, demolished them. And then we play them next year and demolish them. And that trend continues on. How does that make Georgia look bad? How is that not good for Georgia? The reason I pull for other teams in our conference is not to pull for that team. It's more of self-serving than what most people realize. And when you try to explain that fact to them, it seems missed on them. Say, hey, look, man, Georgia had an opportunity to play Florida early in the year, beat the brakes off of them, handed them brakes to them, and left them on the side of the road and went home. If Florida goes out there and beats everybody by 100 points, and then Georgia nearly shuts them out, everybody's going to say that Georgia is way better than whomever Florida was playing. ACC may do that, but unfortunately, Tiger, there's not a whole lot of teams in the ACC you can pull for. Man, my nose is itching today. I mean, at least in the SEC, you've got, I'd probably say a good 5 or 6 teams you can pull for, right? Georgia and Alabama, nobody's going to disagree about those. I can't pull for Auburn. I will never pull for Auburn. I don't care who they're playing unless it's Texas, and then I'll just sit there and watch y'all both beat each other up. If you're playing somebody out of conference and you're an SEC team, 99.9% of the time I'm going to pull for you. 99.9% of the time I'm going to pull for you. And that's because the better the SEC looks, the better Georgia's going to look, and the easier it is for Georgia to get recruits. So, yeah, I won't. He said I'll never pull for the lame guys. I don't think Uncle Lou will either. And I think that note is missed in a lot of other conferences. You will never see a Big Ten team pull for another Big Ten team. You'll never see a Big 12 pull for another Big 12. It just doesn't happen. But in the SEC, it's one of those things like I'm not pulling for the Cal College ever. Are you talking about Auburn, Dwayne? I didn't say pull for every team. I just said on the whole. On average, we will pull for each other's teams. Like, I'll pull for LSU. I don't hate LSU. I'll pull for Texas A&M. Hell, I even pull for Arkansas just because I like rooting for an underdog. I don't really pull for Florida unless it's, a bowl game or something. Ohio State never pulls for Michigan. Yeah. I mean, it's just the way it goes. I think that if you're going to, but kind of back to the topic, I think if you're going to be a college football fan, you should at least know who the coach is. God almighty. That's something I don't understand. I don't understand. And this happens to me all the time. People will walk up and they'll say, hey, go Dogs. And I'm like, go Dogs. And they go, how do you think we're going to do this year? And I'll go, well, I think we're going to do pretty good, man. And then they'll say something dumb like, hey, who's the coach now? Stop breathing my air, sir. Stop breathing my air. Late mother would not say War Eagle no matter what. I grew up in a house divided. My dad went to Auburn and my mother bled crimson. Oof. So, or my favorite is, who's the quarterback? Or, how's Todd Gurley going to do this year? Oh man, it happens all the time, all the time. I'm pulling for Oklahoma this season, unless they play Alabama, then all bets are off. Why are you pulling for Oklahoma? Good Lord, sir. Are you? Oh, you pulling for Jalen? You're not pulling for Oklahoma. You're pulling for Jalen. That's different. Whew, nose itching. Man, what a pretty day. It's like 70 degrees outside. I'm standing here in the shade. We ain't got a little breeze going on. Man, it'd be a great day to either be fishing or fishing or watching football. But there's no football on, so. I think Jalen Hurts is a pretty good fit for Oklahoma. I certainly think that he has an opportunity to advance himself there. Artie's trolling again, pulling for Texas and Florida this year because your team will be average. Just answer me one question, Artie. Do you want to keep Gus Miles on? That's all I want to know. 68 degrees in Elk Ridge, Maryland. Oh, man. You're up there in Terrapin territory? Good night. Hey, Tiger Raven, let me ask you this. What kind of fan base do the Terrapins have? Woo. Hold on, I'm finna make a change real quick, guys. All right. So, I'm standing out here by my car, and I have an adjustable phone holder here. Thank you. Hold tight. I'm going to grab something real quick. I'll be right back. I'm not going far. Sorry about that. Whew, just ran out of coffee, so I'm about to fix that here in a minute. And I just took some allergy medicine, so let's see what we got here. 68 degrees in June. Oof. I don't know if I can handle that. That would just feel weird to me. I will say, one of the things I do miss, I used to live in Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm originally from Georgia. But one of the things I do miss is in the fall, it would get pretty chilly in the fall, and I really miss that. And I'm hoping that we're in the process of trying to move a little further north of Atlanta. I'm hoping I can get a little bit of that chill off those mountains, maybe some snow now and then. Big dog came up missing here, like Georgia did in the video. What are you talking about, Dwayne? Nice in Bama this morning. I got family that live in Alabama. Roll Tide roll. Sarah trolling me again. Clemson and Maryland were rivals when the Terrapins used to be in the ACC conference. That's intense, dude. I didn't even know that. I had no idea that the Terrapins used to be in the ACC conference. Hey, what I need you to do, though, Tiger Raven, is I need you to get on the phone over at and call Notre Dame's football team and tell them to get in the ACC conference so y'all can trash the hell out of them. Can you do that for me? I'd appreciate that, because I get tired of seeing those guys trying to sneak their way into the playoffs. You guys are trolling each other now. Here we go. All right, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. I'll be back in about 5 seconds, so you guys hang tight. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. Alrighty. All right. Sorry about that. When coffee calls, I must answer. So anyway, everything right now seems to be on track. You know, kind of everything is kind of on pace for the same way it was last year. Jake Fromm's still at the helm. We've got some new recruits coming in. We've got some stuff we've got to fix in the off season. One of the things that we've got to fix is Jake Fromm's deep threat capability. Send Notre Dame down to the SEC and letting them see what real football is all about. Man, they'll get wadded up like old newspaper. We've got to see what we can do to shore up the interior of the defensive line. I know it's been a point of contention. Hopefully we can get that fixed and see what happens in the SEC West. It's going to be really interesting to see how things play out on that side of the ball. I think everybody knows that Georgia's going to run the table on the East. I think everybody's expecting Alabama to run the table on the West. I believe that Alabama is absolutely the powerhouse on the West, but I do think that Alabama has some big games that they have to play in. One of those is going to be Texas A&M and LSU. Now, they may go out there and absolutely mollywop them, but I think those two games are probably tougher than any two games that we have, any two games that Georgia has in the East. Apparently that guy's in a hurry. So anyway, the fan bases are kind of at a lull right now. Everything's kind of slow, and fan bases are going to continue to be kind of slow for a little while. I think this week I'm going to make the Florida video of the top returning players, and then the week after that I'm probably going to make the Georgia one. I should probably make an LSU one, or maybe even a Texas A&M one. Just kind of talking about the state of those teams and who their best returning players are, and I may even add in some of the players that'll be impact breakout players this year. There's a lot of teams out there. There's content creators out there that cover a lot of different content, and I try to be careful not to overlap what they're doing with what I'm doing. I mean, it's possible that there's absolutely no difference whether I make it or not impacting their videos or them impacting mine, but I always try to be respectful of the other content that other people are putting out. So it's one of the reasons I'm real careful about how I do what I do. So, whew, it's already been an hour. Good night, man. Once we get a new house here, my wife just sent me a picture of something. What did she send me a picture of? Oh yeah. So I mean, while I agree with that for the most part, VT, I'd have to say that I'd be careful if it were me. I think those two teams have the biggest shot at upsetting Alabama. And Saban believes to come back with a vengeance. That guy, I don't know how many years he's got left in him, but after his hip surgery this year, it may be a turning point for him. He may decide that he's good. He may decide, like, hey, I've won enough national championships. My body just can't take this anymore. Who knows? I mean, the guy's getting up there. He's made more money than his grandkids can spend. So, and he's got handfuls of rings and the whole nine. He's been an amazing attribute for the University of Alabama. Once that guy leaves that university, I do not know what is going to happen there. I mean, it'd be like us losing Kirby Smart. I have no idea what would happen. I think that the talent on the field would carry the team for some strong seasons the next couple of years, but I don't know who they'd get as a head coach that's anywhere near the caliber of Nick Saban. I would imagine they would take somebody off of the Alabama staff and try to promote them into head coach and try to have them continue to run that offense the way that it's been running. I would be highly upset if I was an Alabama fan and they tried to bring in some outside coach. Dabo. I don't think so, man. Why would Dabo want to leave Clemson? Clemson is destroying everything in the ACC. Everything. There's nobody in that conference, anywhere in that conference, that can reasonably challenge them. Nowhere. He picked all the players, continues to pick all the players. They're just he's already set up. It's like getting out of an Escalade to get into another Escalade. And an Escalade that's going to need work. It just makes no sense. He's going to continue to drive what he's got. I think retirement would kill Nick Saban. I don't think he knows how to sit still. Well, Sarah, you might be right, but I think at some point, and if you've ever experienced an injury, and I'm sure you have, it may be tough for you to sit down, but your body will make you. LSU doesn't have a QB. A&M schedule is brutal, and Auburn is Auburn. Auburn's one of those teams, man, they can surprise you sometimes. I mean, it happened both to Alabama and Georgia in the same year. Back-to-back games. They beat both of the number one ranked teams back-to-back, and then, of course, went on to get Skulldrug in the SEC championship. But it just goes to show how that team can sneak up on you. Georgia can't beat Alabama. Well, we beat them before. It's been a long time. But we don't get to play them every year either. So, I mean, and both the last couple of times that we played them, I mean, it was close games. Georgia led both of those games for 111 minutes out of 120. So to say that Georgia can't beat Alabama, I don't think is an accurate representation. I think Georgia has led against Alabama more in the last two games than any other teams that they have played. And that includes Clemson. So we just didn't finish the way we were supposed to. And that's because we had some really conservative play calling on offense by Jim Chaney, which is why his dumpster fire self is now continuing his dumpster fireism in Tennessee. Somebody asked me the other day if I was upset that Jim Chaney was gone. Heck no, I'm not upset that he's gone. I'm glad he's gone. I was one of the first advocates trying to get that guy off the team. I just can't stand that guy. He's terrible. He comes out with a first half offense that he's got a good game plan for the first half, and then every other team makes adjustments, and then he can't, and then they start chipping away, and then the play calling gets even more conservative. The offense continues to try to run the ball 85% of the time on first down. Defense dials up on it. Run game stops. Jake Fromm can't carry the team, and then we end up losing. That's how that goes. Now, if this bonehead can figure that out, I don't understand why the coaches can't. I don't understand why the athletic department can't figure that out. And I get that there's a lot of noise from the fan base and armchair quarterbacking and all that stuff, but at some time you have to sit down and be objective about it. I think that's what happened. With Jim Chaney. You know, they sat down and they looked at it reasonably, and they was like, you know what, this guy he just can't. Any team can be beat. No doubt UJ will wind up beating Bama in the near future. I think that's likely. As good as Clemson is, as good as Alabama is, you've seen it go back and forth. Both of those teams have played each other pretty close. And you know, Clemson's won a couple, Alabama's won a couple. I mean, it's just the way it goes. So I think that if Georgia continues to play in the arena the way it's playing in, and by the way, Alabama, oh yeah, Georgia has new coaches, new defensive line, new skill players on offense. Dominating the East is going to be hard. I don't think so, Artie. I really don't. I think that dominating the East, basically all you need to do. The offensive line is huge. This is probably going to be the best offensive line Georgia has seen since probably 2004. This offensive line is going to be incredible. Mark Richt never had an offensive line of this caliber after 2004. That having been said, I think that Georgia could probably win 95% of the games snapping the ball every time and handing it off to DeAndre Swift. That's what Kentucky did. They had a worse offensive line than we did. Had one good running back who's nowhere near as good as DeAndre Swift. And they won almost every one of their games. So I think that Georgia could dominate the East on just that. They're going 10-2. And I'm guessing, are you saying that Georgia's going to lose to Florida and Auburn? Artie? Give Crimson credit. They go out to conference to play tough teams. Georgia, Auburn, and A&M over the last 7 years plus. Can't play. Plus, they play South Carolina every year. They can't control the ACC. Yep. Yeah, the Clemson-Georgia rivalry will be good. Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is going to be a dangerous team. I just don't think they have the depth. I think by the time they get to the third quarter, that they don't have the depth yet. If Georgia doesn't have the depth after 3 years of solid recruiting, how in the world is Texas A&M supposed to have the kind of depth to beat Georgia? Georgia's got 22. There's 22 5-stars on our team. 22 5-stars. Now, I get that 5 stars, 4 stars don't mean everything. Georgia's had some rock star performers that came in at 3 stars. But that's way, way more talent on that field than at Texas A&M, and it's deeper. So I just don't see how I don't see how Texas A&M is supposed to beat Georgia. I remember Texas A&M choking on a 44-10 lead at UCLA in 2017. I seem to remember that too. Sit down, Dwayne. Y'all have had y'all shot at Clemson. Sit down. Let somebody else have a turn. Depth's only come into play if the other team gets riddled with injuries. That is not the case, sir. Depth matters. Because whenever you're out there and you're playing football for 60 minutes, going hard, if you run the same 11 players that whole game and I can cycle out between 25 and 30 players on defense, I'm going to rule your day. You might hold up for the first half, but that second half, your guy's going to be wore out. I mean, that's just football. I mean, that's basically like middle school, high school football. You got a player who's running both ways. By the time you got a wide receiver who's run that same route, that out and go route, wheel route, curl route, slant route, he's run that 25, 30 plays already. He's sprinting down the field 25, 30 plays. By the time you get to that fourth quarter, he doesn't have that same speed. He doesn't have that same step. That's why they cycle those guys out. Same thing with offense and defensive line. If you got big defensive line guys, those guys are going to get tired. They're moving around a lot of meat. By the time you get to that, that second half, if you hadn't swapped those guys in and out, they are exhausted. Basically, all the defense has to do is lean forward, stop, let those guys fall down, and go right past them. So depth absolutely matters. That's why this comes into play. At the end of the day, there's definitely any team out there can beat any team, any given Saturday, and that's why that saying exists. Any given Saturday, anybody can beat anybody. But I don't think there's a team out there that, with all things equal, can consistently say that they're going to beat Georgia. I don't think there's any team in the East that can say that they think that they're going to run the West or run the East. I only think there's one team in the East, and of course I'm a Georgia homer. I only think there's one team in the East that's even capable of saying that they're going to that they can be competitive with all of the teams in the SEC West. I think Georgia can be competitive with Alabama. I think Georgia can be competitive with LSU and Texas A&M and Auburn. I think that's absolutely a reasonable statement. Now, can I say that same statement about Florida? No. Certainly can't say it about South Carolina or Vandy or Kentucky. Missouri, no. It doesn't exist. So to me, I think the biggest difference is that there's Florida beat LSU, Georgia did. Again, any given Saturday doesn't mean they're consistently competitive. I mean, the triangle that you're talking about, which is LSU, Georgia, Georgia, Florida, Florida, LSU, and that big circle absolutely proves what I just said, that any given Saturday, any team can win. That's the exception to the rule. I'm talking about on a consistent basis, consistently dominate a conference. One of the big problems that I think Florida had is that they got rid of Jim McElwain. Jim McElwain won the SEC East 2 years in a row, and they fired him, and he had a bad season. I said, wow. The guy's winning the conference, and you're firing him. What in SEC East? They can beat every team in the West except Bama. Florida, why are you so high on Florida, Artie? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I'm gonna look into Florida and see if I can find something that I'm missing. I don't see it. And if somebody else sees it, y'all let me know. But I honestly don't see it. I really don't. Half time I get on here and go to make these, these videos or these live streams, and I absolutely kind of have no real topic beyond probably the first 15 minutes, and then it always picks itself up and spins off, and that's all credit to you guys. I really appreciate the comments in the comment section. I think it gives me somebody to keep the chat entertaining with. I really appreciate it. Mullen went 10-3 his first year. Why would they want the shark humper? That's an after the fact point of why would you fire a coach for an unknown? I mean, I get that a lot of people in Florida think Dan Mullen is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that's fine. But to fire a coach because he has one bad season, man, that's pretty brutal. I mean, there were years with Mark Richt where I was like, we beat Florida? Yep. We beat Georgia Tech? Yep. All right, I'm good. Oh, we beat Auburn too? Oh, that's a good season. I'm good. Oh, I'm happy. That mentality has since changed. That mentality has evolved into, okay, we see what we can do with recruiting. We see what we can do with coaching. We see what we can do with a good quarterback. We can be competitive on a national level. I'd really like to see a national championship. And then it got to be where, let me dial back to the Mark Richt days. In the Mark Richt days, I would get so upset. I'm surprised. I'm surprised I haven't had a heart attack because of it. SEC has become a pressure cooker for coaches. It has, but in their defense, you can't sit there and say that the SEC is the best conference and then accept mediocre performance from your coaches. You can't do that. If you're going to be the best, you're going to be in the best conference, then you have to perform the best. You have to be the best. You can't go out there and do an 8-5 season every year and expect to be kept, because the conference itself is dictating that you have to have dominant performance. And if you don't have that dominant performance, then we'll find somebody who can. Sarah's like, Artie, I have to hand it to you. You don't let anybody shake your fantasy about Florida. I think Auburn. I'm gonna call him Auburn Artie. I think Auburn Artie is call him AA from now on. Auburn Artie, AA. I think AA is he's like a 60% Auburn fan and like a 40% Florida fan. I don't know what he sees in Florida, but he certainly sees something. I'm going to do some digging and see what I can come up with, but we'll see how it goes. All right, guys. Well, it's been 1 hour and 15. I got a bunch of stuff to do today. I got a lot of driving I got to do today. Hey, Artie, you may be right, man. And if you're right, I'll be the first one to admit to it. But I can tell you right now, if Georgia comes out and skull drags Florida, Don't disappear. I'm sure you won't, but don't disappear. Clemson dominate Georgia Tech the last 4 meetings. Yes. By the way, Tiger Raven, Georgia has dominated Georgia Tech the last 12 out of 13 or something like that. I'm so high on them because you guys are asleep at the wheel. I don't think so. I really don't. It's considering it the past 2 years, the way that we've treated them when we've played them. The fact that Dan Mullen keeps, he's like, I'll be here to take credit. I think it's what he meant to put. I think the way that Dan Mullen keeps trolling Georgia, I think all he did, if he wanted Georgia to sleep on him, which is what he should have wanted, he didn't handle himself in a manner that would have made that happen. He should have just been quiet and said, hey, we're going to sneak up on Georgia. We're going to knock their lights out. And he didn't do that. He's out there, rah, 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 rah. Okay. You know, it's kind of like that old saying. It's like, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Ooh, that's a good question. Dwayne wants to know, if Auburn will make it to Atlanta. Let's see what we got. Hit that thumbs up while we wait, guys. Don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe. Nope. Well, I don't know if he's being honest there, if he's just trying to dodge the retorts that will come with it. But I'm trying to get to 1,500 subscribers by the end of the year. By the end of the year, by the time season starts, I'm like 185 now. If you guys would share, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your buddies, tell folks that you don't like about me. That way maybe we can get to that number. And I can't do it without you guys. I appreciate every single person that jumps on these videos, whether they're trolling me or not, doesn't matter. I appreciate you guys so much for jumping on here and giving me the opportunity to interact with you guys. I got a lot going on today. It's been about an hour and 20 minutes, so the video is getting kind of long. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a day, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll have another video out soon. And as always, God bless.